This animation shows two audio waveforms, a chart-topping hit from today and a pop hit from 1962. If you extract the raw audio data from both and overlap them, their underlying structural blocks perfectly align. Before this geometry dominated the radio, the music industry operated out of publishing houses like this. Early 20th century publishers relied on a system known as Tin Pan Alley. The songwriters of that era built tracks using a 32-bar AABA structure. It required dense, complex chord progressions that favored sophisticated melodies over immediate repetition. When early rock and roll arrived, teenage listeners wanted loud, driving rhythm and instant lyrical hooks. The elegant, winding arrangements of the past simply moved too slowly to capture this new energy. The industry hit a bottleneck. Record labels faced massive new teenage demand, but they were using an outdated method to supply it. They needed a faster way to build a song. The physical solution emerged here, at 1619 Broadway in Manhattan. This is the Brill Building. Inside, record executives rapidly replaced the established Broadway veterans with a new workforce. They hired energetic teenagers, writers who were the exact same age as the target demographic, to draft the new sound. Carole King was among this wave of hires. She brought an intuitive sense for aggressive, driving pop rhythms to the studios. Working nearby, Burt Bacharach brought his own distinct classical and jazz timings, integrating them into standard pop arrangements. These writers took the raw energy of early rock and the structural precision of Broadway and engineered them into a standardized, highly efficient template. The Brill Building operated on strict vertical integration. Every step of music production, from drafting lyrics to pressing the final record, happened under a single roof. Faster, energetic tone. Publishers packed dozens of upright pianos into tiny, unventilated cubicles, creating a dense, competitive floor of writers working side by side. A writer would arrive at 9 a.m. and be expected to hammer out a raw vocal melody, the hook, by late morning. By noon, an in-house arranger scored that melody for the studio musicians waiting in the recording booths below. Before sunset, the band recorded the track, and engineers cut physical acetate discs. Promoters then rushed those hot discs directly to local radio stations. Writing a sprawling 32-bar composition takes weeks. When the schedule demands a fully produced track every 8 hours, complexity is impossible. The daily quota forced writers to invent a foolproof modular design. This diagram shows the resulting framework, the verse-chorus-bridge structure. The sequence begins with the verse. This section provides the narrative context, establishing the characters and the situation for the listener. Then comes the chorus, the melodic payoff. By alternating between the verse and the chorus, the track guarantees the listener hears the central hook multiple times within the first 2 minutes. Vocalists, primarily the popular girl groups of the early 60s, used this repetitive loop to drill the melody directly into the audience's memory. But a loop of only 2 parts risks becoming monotonous. To break the cycle, the writers added a structural pivot known as the bridge, or the middle 8. The bridge introduces an entirely new chord progression, a tempo shift, or a change in key. It forces a sudden break in the familiar rhythm, creating a moment of musical vulnerability. Depriving the listener of the primary hook builds immediate psychological tension. When the song finally drops out of the bridge and returns to the final chorus, it feels like an emotional homecoming, an engineered release of tension. The efficiency of this layout ensured it would quickly break out of Manhattan. Record executives applied the identical vertical integration and structural formula in Detroit, giving rise to the Motown hit factory. The physical records then shipped across the Atlantic, dominating the radio frequencies in the United Kingdom. Young British musicians spent years dissecting the B-sides of these American imports, mapping out exactly how the New York writers were constructing their bridges and choruses. When those bands eventually toured America, they weren't introducing a foreign concept. They were playing the Brill Building structural curriculum back to its creators, just with different accents and electric guitars. Today, the recording process looks completely different. The unventilated cubicles and upright pianos have been replaced by laptops and digital audio workstations. This split-screen graphic maps a 1962 lead sheet directly against a modern digital session. As you can see, the underlying blocks line up perfectly. The industry swapped acoustic instruments for software synthesizers, but the mathematical sequence verse, chorus, bridge remains exactly the same. The Brill Building finalized the blueprint for popular music. That mid-century factory never actually closed down. Modern artists are simply the newest workers on the assembly line.